Ponytails. Read by Scribbler. She's Leaving Home by Hoof and Quill. Sugar Cube Corner looked mostly the same. It was mostly the same. From the outside, you couldn't really tell anything had happened, and from the inside, where the customers stayed anyway, it looked the same as always. Maybe a little cleaner, with fewer remnants of streamers taped to the walls, but it mostly looked the same. But it wasn't. Pinkie Pie looked at her old room. It was empty. The walls were still brightly painted, and the sunlight shone in through the windows, but it was empty. No streamers, no balloons. Her party cannon was gone already. Gummy was over with Fluttershy, and everything was just so empty. Pinkie stood there in the little beam of sunlight from the window and looked at her empty room. It was weird enough that she was doing this anyway. She moved out of her family's house when she found her talent for partying, and then she was super lucky enough to find another family with the cakes. But now she was moving out of here too, and she didn't want to do it again, even if she was pretty sure she'd find a new family again anyway. Pinkie took one last look around the room and turned to go down the stairs. In the kitchen, she found Mr. and Mrs. Cake, both looking a little teary-eyed when they spotted her with her last saddlebags full of stuff. She hugged them both, even though they hugged just a little too tightly, and it threatened to make her smile slip. But they'd already said their goodbyes, and it was just a nice, fake little "see you later," and Pinkie Pie was gone.
Rarity, it's Carousel Boutique. You can't give it to any pony else.
Sweetie Belle followed behind her sister as Rarity levitated certain small possessions and design books into her already overstuffed saddlebags. Rarity sighed, and her horn sparked in frustration until she managed to fit the last set of designs into her bag. Sweetie Belle, darling, Miss Pamela is a very capable designer. I'm quite certain that she will do very well here.
But Carousel Boutique is yours. You're the best designer in Equestria. Why do you have to go?
Sweetie Belle knew she was whining, and knew that Rarity's patience was limited for that sort of thing, but she couldn't help it. She sat down on the floor as her big sister finalized a few small details with the dumb, cream-colored earth pony mare that was taking over the shop. She didn't listen. She didn't want to listen. She wanted things to be like they were before, and she wanted her big sister to stay here in Carousel Boutique and do all the things Rarity liked doing. But things change. They trotted outside together, and suddenly Rarity was just that extra half-step farther ahead of Sweetie Belle than Sweetie Belle wanted her big sister to be, and Sweetie Belle threw herself forward to hug Rarity's hoof. Rarity opened her eyes wide in surprise, but then sat down in the road and hugged her crying little sister close. Sweetie Belle, you will always be my little sister, and nothing will ever change that. Even leaving. Rarity looked up at the building she'd just left. It looked the same, or at least mostly the same. But it wasn't hers anymore. She'd built the boutique as a business from the ground up, and now it wasn't hers anymore. Rarity looked up at the building for a long second, and then turned to hug her sister again. Leaving Carousel Boutique is not the end of the world, sweetie. Now, let's go find Apple Bloom and Squidaloo. I'm quite certain that the three of you will feel better together. brave little fillies didn't cry. Or at least, that seemed like something they shouldn't do to Scootaloo. But it was kind of tempting sometimes, like when Rainbow Dash's cloud house was being demolished. It was always sort of a big block in the weather patterns, and most towns on the ground didn't allow cloud homes anyway. But Rainbow Dash had been weather team captain for a while, and so her house had stayed there. Until now. Rainbow Dash had elected to tear it down herself, which made a weird kind of sense to Scootaloo. Of course, Scootaloo couldn't help even if she wanted to. So she sat on the warm grass on the hilltop below the house and watched Rainbow kick away the puffy white walls and blow away the remnant cloud stuff. Scootaloo had a lot of Rainbow's old things, and the rest of them were already gone. Rainbow Dash said she liked to travel light and that she could take most of the things she wanted to bring with her. She looked up at the rapidly dwindling cloud home and sighed. Even if she wasn't really, she felt an awful lot like she was losing a sister. Fluttershy finished putting the final touches to her old cottage. It was a sort of bittersweet feeling, tearing down the old doors and windows so that the animals could move in and out as they wanted. The chicken coop was already gone, as was all the fencing and all that sort of thing. Her animal friends were all running around and exploring the new freedom of movement. It would take a little adjustment leaving this house. She had lived here, basically, the entirety of her adult life. But there was always a time for good things to end, and this was that time. It was near the Everfree forest, and the animals always had the food they needed. The less capable animals, like the chickens, were already at Sweet Apple Acres, so there wasn't anything to worry about.
Okay, Gummy, it's time to go.
Fluttershy smiled to the little alligator resting on her back and holding onto her mane with his gums, and turned her back on the animal's new home. Applejack's vision swam, and stars flashed in her eyes a bit as Big Macintosh pulled her into a hug tighter than any hug had any right to be. After a moment, she pushed on his chest, and he released her, having the decency to look a little apologetic. Applejack smiled at him.
Come on now, big brother. It ain't gonna be that different. I'll be back for apple bucking season, and it'll be just like old times.
Nope.
That word, and the tone behind it, left no doubt that they both understood something was changing. Applejack sighed.
I'm real sorry, y'all, but this is how it's gotta be. I'll come back and see you when I can.
Her brother, her little sister, and Granny Smith all wrapped their forelegs around her and each other in the last family hug they'd have for a while. Applejack would deny it later, but while she was here, there was no point in saying there weren't any tears. But sometimes tears are okay, and sometimes things have to change. For only the second time in her life, Applejack turned and left Sweet Apple Acres without any intention of moving back in. The 6 mares, formerly the Elements of Harmony, stood together on a hill on the outskirts of Ponyville. Each of them looked a bit wistful. Some of them were even a touch misty-eyed. But even Rainbow Dash knew that teasing over this was out of the question at the moment. Princess Twilight looked back towards Ponyville, and her friends saw her eyes linger for a long moment on the big, distinctive tree that housed Golden Oak Library. Twilight hesitated, and then smiled and turned toward the forest. "Well, girls, are we ready?" 5 mares nodded, and 1 dragon sitting on Twilight's back. Twilight took a deep breath. "I know it's hard to live like this, but after everything that's happened, losing the Elements of Harmony, finding ourselves over the past few months, and, well, the rainbow thing, I think a new start is what we all need." Applejack nodded, and no pony mentioned the tears in the mare's eyes at leaving her home.
You sure about naming this place?
The Rainbow Kingdom?
Rainbow Dash found some energy from somewhere and laughed loudly. Just that bit of sound seemed to lighten the expressions on every pony's face.
I know it's not really about me. It's about the, new powers or whatever. But it sounds so awesome!
The low mood broken for the moment. Pinkie Pie laughed with Rainbow Dash, and the 6 mares started down the hill and into the Everfree Forest. Deep within stood their new home, the newly restored Rainbow Castle, and they'd all have reason to celebrate again soon. That was She's Leaving Home. It was written by Hoof and Quill and read by Scribbler. Okay, thank you very much for listening. This, again, was not on the weekend as I usually update. It was instead Monday, which makes it exactly a week since the last one, which I'm sure you wanted to know. It was also, this is not the fic that I originally intended to upload this week, but for multifarious reasons, it ended up being this week's fic. Actually, this is a fic I only found yesterday, and I did something I don't usually do, that I found it on one day, recorded it the same day, edited it the same day, and put the video together the same day. And the only reason it's coming out today instead of yesterday is because of this end blurb. I couldn't really record this when I finished editing at 2 o'clock in the morning. But this one was rather time-sensitive for the Season 4 finale, and with the rest of the schedule of the stuff that I would like to do based on the stuff I've recorded thus far and the collabs I've got in preparation, this one I wanted to do now. I don't know, something inside me just went, this is probably going to go completely tits up in the... when the Season 4 finale finally does come out, and it's going to be completely and utterly blasted out of the canonical water. But I kind of like this idea of the end of Season 4 being quite quiet in the aftermath of whatever came before, and the Rainbow Kingdom. I do like this idea of Rainbow Kingdom, although it does, in fact, bring to mind visions of the Lego Movie. And anybody who has seen the Lego Movie knows what I am talking about. Right, okay. In other news, this week I actually received... Well, I received one piece of spiffy fan art this week, and I received one last week, but... for a couple of reasons, I didn't really want to say anything about that one because it was based on some stuff that was going on in my real life. But the first one is called An Artist at Work by Coraline15 and is on the screen now. Isn't it all shiny and lovely? It's my ponysona scribing away there. I must say I love the colours on this. And the second piece of fan art is from a friend of mine called Webshotter, and he designed this because I was having such an unbelievably bad time in real life. And I kind of... Well, I didn't just kind of... I did disappear from being online for nearly a week. The only contact I made with people was when I was doing the fic uploads, or when I was sending emails to people, and I really wasn't up for talking. And he sent me this lovely piece of fan art to lift my spirits. And I was just really, really touched by it. I think I've said before now that 2014 has not been kind, but the couple of times where I've mentioned... A couple of times. I whinge constantly. This is why I'm sure lots of people don't listen to these end blurbs anymore. But the times where I've mentioned some of the stuff that's going on in real life, and people send me messages, or a couple of times I've received fan art, and it means so much. I mean, I can't really communicate how much just a kind word can pick up a person's day. So if you see anybody else who's having a shitty day, just say something nice to them, because it makes so much difference. It certainly did for me. And with that, I shall depart, as I am recording lines for some other projects. This week, I appeared in 2 different fanfic readings by different people. The first is The Fine Art of Bonsai Trees, which was read by Flame Lionheart, in which I played Fluttershy. Links in the description below. And the second is Celestia uses an online dating website, which is the first chapter of quite a few, in which I'm collaborating with Akash the Reader, and I am Shadow007, who also plays Trixie in Heroic Tale of Heroically Heroic Heroes, and who played Twilight in the 5,000 subscriber special that I read, 5 Things That Never Happened to Twilight Sparkle, and who is just generally an amazing voice actress. So, if you've got a moment, please go and listen to those. I would very much appreciate it if you'd also give the people who edited them some lovely feedback, because they worked so friggin' hard. And with that, I shall love you and leave you, so that you can go on and enjoy other things. Be lovely to each other, and good night, everybody.